However, the real meal was left to Tristan once the game ended, a meal which the little girl took as an opportunity to deliver the rest of her fabulous adventures. Tristan only had to listen to her with a smile on his face before requiring her to go to the bathroom to wash up and brush her teeth. Amber always grumbled at bath time, but her sexless Barbie mermaid quickly helped her to forget the inconvenience. More than once, she slyly waited for the 30-year-old man to come close enough for her to shoot him with a fish-shaped water gun. Innocent laughter would ensue. Then, the little girl had to be tucked into her big princess bed while he was telling her a story, usually a fairy tale. In those moments, she blinked more and more slowly, looking up at him with a touching expression. Tristan would almost melt from the cuteness. He was careful not to close the door all the way. The corridor's light had to hunt the monsters, which would disturb Amber's sleep. It was a specific request from her. She was fearful. The man had to protect her from ghosts at the slightest shout. That was his promise to her. Before going to sleep, Tristan found some comfort in contemplating her asleep. He hoped that her sleep would be inhabited with nice dreams, that she wouldn't forget him, that she would think about him, in whatever way that might be. Could she even feel his presence, or how much he cared for her? The way they organized their weekend allowed for a more festive time. It was the time for outings. It was out of the question for Amber to get bored, to stay shut in the tight and bleak flat again. She had to have a change of scenery. So they went to lively places. The pool, the amusement park, the ice rink, the movie theater, restaurants. She had to try everything. Every week was a different universe. Running along at a brisk pace with her impeccably polished shoes, the little girl jumped from ride to ride while hanging on Tristan's arm. It warmed his heart to see her having innocent fun. In front of a smile that big, he could only imitate the girl's good mood despite himself. Every time, she would inevitably ask for a dessert, a pancake or an ice cream. He would watch her spreading whipped cream on her face out of the corner of his eye. The temptation to lick that dab of ice cream from the tip of her nose or the corner of her lips was nearly too much. That's not creepy. Such a display, both childish and unhealthy, tickled his darkest thoughts, his most pitiful thoughts. However hard he rejected them with all his strength, his hands became sweaty and trembling. His hands confessed his torment. But Amber couldn't understand. Amber was a little girl. Only a little girl. Where do I not like where this is going? The months flew by at breakneck speed. Tristan refused to admit it, but his young friend was growing up. He wanted to ignore the fact, turn a blind eye, but the unstoppable passage of time had already started to do its work. Amber was going through a strange crisis. That evening, she was particularly angry and proclaimed vigorously, "I don't want to be a child anymore." "How so?" "I want to become older." "But you have plenty of time for this, Amber." "I want to become older faster. That way I can do more things." The 30-year-old man sighed. He obviously didn't know how to answer such assertions. He'd never had a child, and he was not very good at calming down revolts regardless. Taken aback, he left the girl to sulk in the living room to go take a relaxing shower. While he was soothing his worries in a rush of hot water, she displayed an angry pout. "That's not fair. I wish I could be older now. If only I had a model." I wonder what Tristan's wife looked like, for example. I'm sure that she was a kind person. But he never wants to talk about it. He avoids the subject. Could be that he's hiding something from me. Intrigued, Amber took advantage of his absence to open a drawer she had never touched before. Inside, under the telephone directory, was a big leather notebook. Convinced she had found a treasure, she grabbed it and opened it. It was a photo album. Spread on the pages were bright smiles and tender gestures. Browsing through the pictures, the little girl discovered her guardian, young and dashing in the arms of a coquettish young lady. Dressed soberly and tastefully, she was strolling along the seashore with a shawl on her shoulders or in a park holding an ice cream. But what caught her eye was a very specific picture toward the center of the album. Tristan, wearing a suit, was leading his lover out of a church with clumsy footsteps under a shower of flower petals. She looked so happy, so fulfilled, in her large, refined white dress that Amber was stupefied. All the more so as the bride looked exactly like her. She's so pretty. What are you looking at? Tristan's sudden appearance made her jump, so much that she dropped the forbidden object. His gaze darkened immediately. You searched through the closet to see what my wife looked like, didn't you? She answered in a shaky voice, guiltily. Yes. Are you going to scold me? Of course not. I just would have preferred that you didn't see it. Why? Why don't you ever talk about her? I want to know. He sighed, appearing upset as he looked into those begging eyes that he had never been able to resist for long. Reluctantly, he sat down on the couch and told her he had met the one he thought would be the love of his life, and related all they had gone through together. Amber listened with wide-eyed attention. She liked that story very much. Tristan seemed briefly to get younger as he evoked the past, describing how head over heels he had been for her and how happy she had made him. Their peaceful and ordinary life was something the little girl envied. Caught up in the tale, she couldn't help but pressure him. And then, what happened? Until the light shining in the man's green eyes brutally vanished. And then she left. Where to? Far away to a place where I can't reach her anymore. Every day I pray that she'll somehow hear me, that she'll wake up, that she'll remember me. I don't know if she'll ever emerge from that dream that's keeping her captive. Is she dead? Sometimes it feels like it, but no, she's still alive, just in a different world from mine. If I could have joined her, I would have. I would have sacrificed everything for her, and today she's forgotten me, forever. That's sad. Tristan sighed again, head down, as a heavy, crushing silence came between them. Amber stared at the photo, bewitched by the woman's smile. Deep down in her heart she had an odd thought. If I was older, I could replace Tristan's wife and he wouldn't be sad anymore. That night she left a devastated Tristan lying as immobile as a statue on the sofa. Slipping between the covers of her cozy bedsheet, she felt helpless. If only I was older. The thought took root more and more violently in her mind to the point where it became an emergency. She had to become Tristan Mallory's wife. A new routine seized little Amber. It was now out of the question for her to stay a little girl. She wanted to grow as suddenly as a butterfly, a beauty cursed by its ephemeral life. Thus began a kind of adolescence. She no longer woke up in the morning when Tristan went to work. She waited until midday to surface and took her meal at that time. Tristan did not call her at the usual hour either. He knew that she would not be in the mood. After a brief meal, the young girl watched television, while leafing through magazines bought with the pocket money her benefactor gave her. Her afternoon fluctuated between American TV shows and beauty tips. Between the pages of magazines, she learned how to become pretty to seduce men, an idea she liked a lot. She wanted Tristan to look at her, to take an interest in her in a different way. To be seen as a woman, she had to act as a woman, but she absolutely didn't know how to do this. These magazines, which were overflowing with tips of all kinds, seemed like an El Dorado to her. Through the articles, she learned how to act, to become a true lady. It wasn't very complicated. She only had to keep a close watch on all of her gestures, to constantly control her every movement so as to convey the best image possible. She had to track down all human weaknesses, every inconvenience, and walk with a relaxed and self-assured air, but not too much, or she would frighten, she would crush. Amber nodded as she was reading what the editor wrote. Of course she had to be open and smiling, but not so much that she came across as exuberant. She had to laugh often, but not too loudly as it was what hysterics would do. She had to be independent and take initiative, but only if the situation lends itself to it, and in a non-threatening way. She had to show herself to be as natural as possible, while enhancing all her advantages with a note of makeup. Amber understood the necessity of buying some in order to become a true woman. She had to dress in a feminine way to demonstrate her worth, while being sober enough so as not to attract unwanted attention. And then she was advised to learn to listen to men, not to talk too much, which would be selfish, be discreet but present, available as soon as he needed, without really showing it to him. As she turned page after page, the young girl felt a pressing urge to spend money on all of the products shown in the advertisements, and praised by the editors. After all, she would need them in order to seduce the brave Tristan. How could she have the slightest chance without cheating a little? Further down, a revealing psychological test claimed that Amber would gain more affection by acting like a fragile little girl. Men needed to be reassured that their virility and of their protector's role. Plus, she was too vulnerable, too frail. She couldn't manage anything worthy without some help. She had to find validation in his eyes, validation of her very existence. If he thinks that I'm pretty, I'll be pretty, like in that photograph. Like this, Amber spent her afternoons reading tips from women magazines, training herself to conceal. When she wasn't watching series, often romantic ones, she was shopping in the city to bring back clothes, accessories, and cosmetics. The city, like the television, constantly spat images of absolute and infinite love, of a perfect and purifying love like a drug, an obligation, a flawless pleasure, and an order. Every billboard sold the same dream, oh so cliché, oh so desirable. It was the pursuit of the fairy tale formula, and they lived happily ever after in opulence and had lots of children. Novel and movie heroines all ran after the same goal. After the lure of profit, wealth, luxury, a life where everything would be easy, but where everything would have lost its taste, a dull, hollow life, an eternal masquerade. But this existential emptiness was just as easy to fill, if you only had to consume and be consumed. You only needed to devote your soul to spend even more, to remove the vestiges of nature, to hide that ridiculous body, too personal, too imperfect, too real, and to replace it with an ethereal sheath, a mirage. You only needed to spend without restraint in order to conquer the piggy bank of your dreams, a mere machine that gives banknotes and weak orgasms, to present yourself like a diamond, a beautiful shiny trinket that everyone should have in their living room. You only need to destroy your own value, immaterial, and replace it with cold, hard cash. And then you only needed to bask in idleness, go around in circles in your cage without any purpose to continue living in a dignified way, wandering like a lost soul disguised as a clown that drips with red, a grim automation. You need to fill the holes, the absence of life, the disease that devours your blood, all your authenticity with money, always more money. Buy until you forget the unease, the angst. Amber admired today's celebrities. Those picture-perfect idols on which nothing stuck out, bodies without even the slightest trace of life. Their uninspired songs only glorified a permanent state of pleasure without toil. Like mass-produced Barbie dolls, all those celebrities merged into a single canon of beauty deemed as unsurpassable, absolute truth. The stars dived into this endless cycle of vanity with such ease that it was truly fascinating. Every minute that passed after a singer's first success was a minute of intense scrutiny, as the whole world glued its eyes on the morbid show that was her slow suffocation, her imminent drowning. Nothing could be more enjoyable, more exquisite than staring at those young women slowly being engulfed by the shadowy tentacles of their dreams. They sacrificed their bodies to the cut of surgical scalpels, to the point of no longer resembling themselves anymore, to the point of transforming into some kind of wonderful monsters. They had rejected their personalities and histories to melt into the mold, to conform themselves to the public's every expectation, to become the showcase of modernity, the icons of this single form of happiness that was advertised at every street corner. A form of happiness that little Amber stared hungrily at. Becoming a star seemed out of her reach, but looking like one was a duty that women's magazines never ceased to remind her of. That frivolous press, so uncomplicated, so fraught with consequences. When Tristan Mallory came home at the end of his working day, he would find Amber waiting hand and foot trying to cook delicious meals for him. Amber, always elegant, craving to look her best, like a perfect little housewife with a strong character. He was past the point of missing innocent days, but in all honesty, he didn't understand why the young girl was putting so much effort into becoming such a perfect creature. One evening, while she was cooking a usual dish, one which the recipe had been recommended on TV, accompanied by a candlelit table in order to celebrate his birthday, he dared to ask, "But Amber, why are you doing all of this for me?" The question hit like a ton of bricks. His complete incomprehension sounded like an insult. She'd probably spent hours gussying up in the bedroom, hours to appear fit to be seen, fresh. She'd probably spent hours tidying the house, cleaning every nook and cranny until it was spotless. She probably spent hours decorating, hours taking care of his godforsaken roast, laboriously cutting vegetables, and here he was asking her why she was trying so hard. The knife in her hands fell violently to the floor, emitting a metallic sound very much like an ill omen. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Amber's voice trembled dangerously. While getting close, he noticed her hands were shaking frenetically. Eyes wide open, soaked in tears, she exploded. "Because I want you to love me. I want you to look at me. Why don't you ever look at me? Am I not good enough? Is that it? Will I never be as good as she was? Will I?" But Amber, who are you talking about? Dumbfounded, Tristan held her in his arms as tightly as he could. No, he truly couldn't understand. He couldn't understand such intense and sudden sobs. Reassured by his gesture, Amber wanted to explain herself. I'm sorry. I'll never be able to replace her." "Who are you trying to replace, Amber? Tell me." "Your wife. I can see that her departure left you very sad. I wanted to bring a smile to your face. I wanted to take her place so you'd forget about her." For a split second, Tristan Mallory was breathless. It was surreal. He would have pinched himself to make sure he wasn't dreaming, but no, the pain in his chest was far too real, too pitifully carved in him. How could he answer such a declaration? How could he find the right words? Catching his breath with difficulty, the 30-year-old man took Amber by the shoulders and looked her in the eyes for a long time. After a brief sigh, he affirmed, "Listen, I'll never be able to forget my wife, alright? It's impossible. But that doesn't mean I don't want you. Actually, it's the exact opposite. You're very dear to me, Amber, you hear me? I need you. You already have her place. So please stop crying. Don't make it harder than it is." The young girl shyly dried her tears and her features changed to an adorably naive expression. She looked sincerely despairing. "You're okay with me? What made you think I'd abandon you, huh?" "Nothing, it's just that Just that you seem to love her so much. I'm a bit jealous. Why is that? I don't know. When I look at those pictures, I can't help but tell myself I must absolutely make you happy. I think I love you. Tristan felt all the courage and determination he had worked up melting away overnight, and started sobbing as well. But I love you too. I've loved you for so long. I love you so much it makes me sick. For real? You're not treating me like a kid? Of course not. Then prove it. What do you mean? Show me you regard me as a true woman. You want me to do that? Amber silently nodded. She seemed dead set on it, so Tristan softly kissed her lips. The warm and pleasurable feeling went to his head for a few seconds. He felt as if he was holding his wife in his arms, as if she had come back for real. The delicate skin, which smelt deliciously like vanilla, reminded him of happy days. Long afternoons spent laughing in the sun, peaceful evenings under the light of the stars of a fire, of a shared umbrella to shelter from the storm. She was here, so close, so far, within a finger's reach. He had only to close his eyes and believe in this dream. The illusion smiled faintly at him. At his limit, he embraced her. If only you knew how much I loved you. He had so many things he had wished to tell her, so many that the floods of words blocked his throat and nothing could come out. So for lack of words to make her understand his feelings, he used his body. When dawn's rays of light crept through the window, Amber was asleep, lying atop Tristan's still lukewarm body. Eyes surrounded by dark circles, the weight of regrets, a fatigue he couldn't get rid of, he stared at her with a sad smile on his face. It was just a dream, wasn't it? When you wake up, you'll be a child again, right? The only answer he got was a slight groan, softened by such a serene face he left a kiss on her fresh cheeks. As soon as he did, the sleeping lips spread to form a happy smile. I wonder what you're dreaming about. Say, won't you invite me over there? So I think I'm going to end this here because, I mean, this is a little weird. I mean, I had to go online to make sure I wasn't misreading this, and they say it's not what we think it is. And I mean, this is how it's presenting itself, but at the same time, I think it's a little weird. But I do want to get through it because I want to see how it goes. So let me know in the comments below if you want to see more or if you think we should stop here. However, they say it's not what we think it is. So we shall find out. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys!